Kare wa Jyakku Miraa desu. Jyakkasu e youkoso!
He's Jack Miller, and welcome to Jackass! I love having a guy on this show that can speak some Japanese. We love to see it. Welcome to, and this is not a milestone, but almost, episode 399 of Motorsport 101. What a number to have. Also, I love that my Apple Watch reacted to that one. Way to go, Apple. Thanks a bunch.
I take no responsibility for this.
The Apple employee did not set this up somehow. I'm shocked, everybody. But yes, welcome to episode 399 of Motorsport 101. I'm your friendly neighborhood host, Dre Harrison. And welcome to round 2 of what we call MotoGP's The Gauntlet. And this time, it's the Japanese Grand Prix. We're back at Motegi, everybody, for the first time in 3 years. We love to see it.
It's still the twin ring in my heart.
It's still the twin ring in our hearts. And thankfully, we actually did get this Grand Prix in full, largely unaffected. It was a bit wet on the Friday and Saturday, but thankfully, no harm done over in that part of Japan. Obviously, thoughts go out to everyone affected that was hit by that super typhoon, because, we don't like seeing that at all. But we did get a clean, without a hitch, MotoGP Grand Prix at Motegi. And with it, Jack Miller winning, dominated, destroying the field. But just when you thought this season couldn't get any wackier, Jack Miller has arguably his greatest ever race in MotoGP. We'll get into some of that as well. But before we get into the actual nitty-gritty, let me introduce my esteemed panel of co-hosts. First up, Cam Buckley. Hello, sir.
Hi, everyone. There's going to be a common theme with this episode of how the hell did he do that? Alternately, why the hell did he do that? Regarding a certain rider in red.
We'll get into that as well. There's a lot of flashpoints and shock in this race, even though it was actually like a 5 out of 10 MotoGP race, which is really weird to say. Or actually,
kind
really,
of another consistent theme this year, unfortunately.
Yeah, weird. It's like the more things change, the more they stay the same. But no, actually, for real this time. Also, we have RJ O'Connell. Hello, sir.
Hi. Arigatou gozaimasu. What's up, y'all? Sabering was good. Hurricane Ian, not good. The Waffle House indents. They're shutting down Waffle Houses in Central Florida. That's how you know
this is the end times.
This is a bad storm. So yeah, if we have any listeners that are out here in Western Florida, trending upward, please stay safe.
Indeed.
Just chill for a bit. Things are already rough, and not to just openly endorse the defenestration of certain people in power in the state of Florida on this podcast, but times are tough enough as it is.
No kidding. Please stay safe out there. I know it's not ideal. Imps is in that Road Atlanta area, which could be in the path of Hurricane Ian by the time it touches down. Fingers crossed to all those and everybody else out there. Hopefully it's not as bad as feared. And I've already seen some very, very horrible weather reports out there. Like weather channels, news channels. Please do me a favor. Stop putting reporters out in the middle of hurricanes.
Oh, Jim Cantor can take it. Like,
no!
Don't get me wrong. It's weird as hell, but also, I guess it's endearing in a way. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess. But no, please stop doing that. It's not great. Speaking of weather, the Japanese Grand Prix, we'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about Jack Miller, who, as I mentioned, dominated the Japanese Grand Prix.
Uber beat him down.
To take his first win of the season. Crazy scenes on that one. Marc Marquez actually did a full race distance. And
he back.
Wait, what do you mean he finished in 4th?
What do you mean he put that thing on pole?
What?
He is still that dude.
Oh my God, Marc Marquez might be back. This is a problem. Everybody panic. Run. This is a problem. Also, does anybody want to win this championship? Because, boy, we had a messy one for the main protagonists in this title fight. Fabio Quartararo, solidly in the midfield. Francesco Bagnaia, Hail Mary on the final lap, which didn't go to plan. Aleix Espargaro, wait, what do you mean his bike's stuck in fuel save mode? We'll get into a crazy sequence of events for the title contenders where the three of them combined scored a grand total of, I'm checking my notes here, 8 points between them. And the breaking news that came through today, yesterday at the time of recording, actually, funnily enough, we're giving away, we're recording on September 29th here in the UK. Well, I'm in the UK anyway. Yes, MotoGP is racing in Kazakhstan, and we have a strict rule on this show. $5 into the charity swear jar for any Borat catchphrase in that segment. Keep your ears pricked at home, everybody.
Well, I think this championship fight is going to be a great success.
It's a good thing it is pre-watershed.
Yeah. Thank goodness for that. This could get expensive, people. I'm just throwing that one out there.
We should just censor every time someone makes a reference.
We'll leave an air of mystery on the show as to what was actually behind the bleep. We'll let the listeners at home figure that one out. Anyway, before we get into that, here's some places you can find us real quick. We're on youtube.com/motorsport101, facebook.com/motorsport101. We're on Twitter at motorsport_101. And of course, our personal handles at Harrison101HD, at RJ O'Connell, and CBuckley917. If all of our content, website articles as well, including our written blogs and all our podcasts and videos, are on our website, motorsport101.com. Check us out on there, including, as mentioned, the Japanese Grand Prix review from yours truly, and a whopper of a special from yours truly, a 4,500 word piece on Colton Herta and everything to do with the super license and the fact he didn't get it. I bled for that post. I really actually enjoyed putting that one together. So if you haven't checked it out already, please do. I want to say a special shout out as well to Zoe Hamilton, who passed it around like I think every Discord she's in. She's a bae. And amazingly, the post itself on Instagram was liked by the reigning series IndyCar champion, Will Power. Will, if you're listening, thanks, brother. Much appreciated.
Come on the show sometime, Will. I'm good at words.
Thanks, Will. We love you, man. Much appreciated. What a guy. What a guy. Class act, as ever, for Mr. Will Power. We love to hear it. So thank you to him, and thanks to everyone that's read it and passed it around. I know I got a lot of responses, all overwhelmingly positive.
Great dive for the shit out here.
Oh, yeah. I've never had a post that's got that the read time came out as 15 minutes. I'm like, God, that is a whopper. But thanks to everyone that's passed it around and read it and, talked to me and reached out in a really classy manner about everything. I was worried that it wouldn't go down well, and it did. So thanks to everybody who went out of their way to say hi and say, yeah, really good piece. Yeah, you made a lot of valid points in there. And, even when I took the piss out of Joseph Newgarden for having a super license eligible t-shirt. But hey, here we go. I think I just about got away with that one. So again, thanks everyone on that one. And if you really, really liked it, why not back us on Patreon? Patreon.com/motorsport101. $5 gets you early access to all of our episodes before they go to the public. $10 also gets you into the supporters club of our Discord server where you can listen to these episodes live as they're being recorded, including Jason, who's in here right now. Hello, Jason. Good to see you, buddy. Hope you enjoyed the show tonight. And stick around till the very end. I'll talk to you a little bit about episode 400. Just stick around on that one. But until then, let's play some music. And when we get back, let's talk the Japanese Grand Prix. It's just nice to say Japanese Grand Prix again after all these years. COVID did a number on us, man. It really did. But
everything is back to normal. But back to normal, I mean, people in power all around the world are trying to cut back on the protections that were afforded all of us in these uncertain times because that's just not profitable. But you know what is profitable? Jack Miller reminding us that when he is on it, he's damn near unbeatable. He passed Jorge Martin and Marc Marquez in the opening lap to lead, and then he never really looked back from there. He would go on untroubled and eventually win by over 3 seconds in a race he essentially led from lights to flag, with Brad Binder and Jorge Martin sharing the podium with him. Dre, is this Jack Miller's greatest ride in MotoGP? It's up there.
It's crazy to think that Jack Miller has now been in the top flight for almost a decade. First and foremost, it is actually scary how long it feels like yesterday he did the double class jump when he was runner-up in Moto3 to some guy called Alex Marquez, also in the top flight now. Did the double jump. We all laughed him out of the room for doing so. He struggled at first for a while, and yeah, this is his 4th win in the top flight now. And this was, I'd argue, his best ever win. This was, I mean, look, we have to talk about the Assen win and the 1,000-1 miracle win that it was. We never saw that coming in a month of Sundays. But this was the ride that should convince people that Jack Miller can dominate a race weekend, dominate a race. And because he's never really had a race win like that. He's always scrapped a little bit. He's had a couple of mitigating circumstances. Le Mans last year, for example. I mean, Cam, I'm sure you remember this, right? You know, Le Mans probably wasn't the fastest man on the day. Marquez was probably the fastest man on the day, but he crashed twice. You know, Jerez last year, yes, he did win, but Fabio Quartararo had a case of compartment syndrome in the middle of the race.
Yeah, I mean, we always see the flashes with Jack because we know how fast he is. And, I mean, we saw the signs throughout this weekend that, I mean, on the Friday, he was far and away the fastest guy, both over a lap and over a race distance on the tires, which we can never say about Jack Miller because that's usually his signature, is that really fast, can't really manage a tire. That was not the case on Sunday. I mean, it got to the point where he was practically he was lapping 4 or 5 tenths clear on some laps for fun.
Just because he could.
And it reminds us, like, what? Well, you see that on Sunday and you realize, how the hell does he only have a handful of these?
4. He has as many wins as Miguel Oliveira. He has one more win than Frankie Morbidelli. You know, he's in that little, like, marginal win club. I think Alex Rins has 4 as well. Like, he's in that ballpark. And the difference is, though, Miller's been around so much longer than some of the guys we've mentioned. Like, I want to say Miller came up in 2014, was his first season in the top flight, and he's only won 4 of these. Like, it is crazy to think how fast the time goes. I mean, yeah, 2015 he debuted. I just had a quick double monitor Wikipedia page. Thanks for that, fellas. But yeah, 2015 he made his top flight debut, and yeah,
excuse me.
As Jason points out in the chat, he was 5.3 seconds up with 3 to go. He eased it down really a lot by the end of that race. He went for the old Valentino Rossi leg over the rear of the bike wheelie going over the line. Very sexy. We love to see it. But I mean, Arjun, you just saw it live for the first time. I mean, what did you make of it?
That was one of the best rides, and like it reminds you that, like, you know what, if he did this more consistently, he'd probably still be at Ducati Corsa next year. But then there's this problem of this younger Italian dude who's like won about as many races in one season as Miller's won for his whole career. And he's not consistent either, but, you know, I would love to see Jack Miller do more of this stuff. Like, I hope this isn't like, you know, the window's not shutting with him moving teams next year.
Yeah.
I mean, I would hope so, but wait, KTM were okay this weekend?
I know. It was weird.
Lord. In second place, Brad Binder, who got the start of ages off the line, jumped everyone into turn 1, and, well, his time at the front was very short-lived, but he did eventually hunt down Jorge Martin and pass him, going into the final couple of laps. I mean, talk about inconsistent. There's weeks where KTM look like the worst team in the field, and we've talked at length on this show about their rider management. And then they show up and they have two people in the fight for the top 5 pretty much all race.
Yeah, because Binder was second, and then Miguel Oliveira was 6th on the day as well. I mean, both KTMs in the top 6. I think that's their best team result since Indonesia, I want to say. Probably a bit better than that, given I think Binder was like 8th or 9th that day. So I'm not sure it was more points than this one, because Miggy in the top 6 as well. He was running 3rd at one point. He slipped a little bit towards the end. Luca Marini got him on the final lap, down the hill on the final lap, funnily enough. But both KTMs in the top 6 as well, on top of Miller completely dominating the field. What jungle juice was this field on? I mean, it was an unpredictable weekend, which we'll get to a little bit more about in a minute, because, it was wet pretty much all through Friday night, through Saturday, and then the race itself was dry. Dry as a bone on Sunday morning. So it was really unpredictable. So, yeah.
And no one really got any time to do a true dry setup because there was just not a lot of dry running.
Yeah, everybody was kind of guessing on this one. I mean, the tire sheets were all over the place on this one because nobody really knew what to run. It was quite funny in that, I like these sorts of weekends because it throws up a whole bunch of results. Or potentially funky sorts of action. I wish Formula One was like that more often, where it was like, you don't.
All right, best we could do is 3 additional sprint races on top of a 24 race calendar. Best we can
do. By the way, you don't get any more engines. I digress.
More on that next week. It was a funky all sort of weekend, but I'm delighted for Jack, and look, we don't say it enough on this show. Jack Miller's one of the good ones. He really is. He's a proper. He's a fan favorite for good reason. I've never heard a single person ever say any shit about Jack Miller ever. Every teammate I've ever seen loves him. The paddock loves him. The fans love him. He is the real people's champion of this sport, and to see him get a win and bawl his eyes out, because I don't think even he could quite believe what he'd just done on that race, and to win it the way that he did, that was Miller looking like someone that could win a championship one day, and I don't think he will. I think that phase of his career has gone past him. But just a quick mental note before we move on. After all of the craziness of this season, the fact that we probably knew Miller was losing his job maybe 4 months ago, he's only 11 points behind Enea Bastianini, the man who's taking his job for next year. Just thought I'd put that one out there. Funny that. Should we talk about 93?
Oh my God. I mean,
it's a pretty good year.
Yeah. Hey, a couple good albums in 1993, but we're talking, of course, of number 93. And well, we got a clean Marquez weekend, and he put the bike on pole.
By a lot.
What?
You know what they say, he may be riding a Honda where you can tell that Marc Marquez has been carrying this team with whatever amount of good arms that he's been having, but especially in the wet, there's nobody better. He is still that dude.
He's still capital H him. I mean, and it wasn't just in qualifying as well. He was very quick in the wet practices. It puts a little bit less strain on the arm, and it's more about just the raw talent. And we know about that with this guy. And put it on pole 2/10 ahead of Zarco.
I mean, you all know Zarco is a fantastic one-lap specialist.
Oh, absolutely. And it didn't last so long in the race, but hey, he didn't really fade throughout the race.
No.
Ended up passing, dropped behind Miggy, got him back late on, and ended up 4th, only a little over 7 seconds off the win.
Oh, yeah. The one that got me... We've been covering bikes on Motorsport 101 for, God, I want to say 6 years now, since Motorsport 101. If you want to go back a little further with me personally, back through the days of Bike Live, my first season was 2014, halfway through 2014. So we're coming up through 8 years of me watching Marc Marquez as a radio host / podcast host / overall part-time journo. How the fuck does he keep doing this? Honestly, this is getting ridiculous. Like, I cannot stress this enough. Like, go on, Cam.
I love how it was described with the Honda that, well, you can't feel anything that the front end is doing. So you have to make it all up on corner exit with the rear, but the bike can't put the power down. So other than that, it's great. And yet, that's that classic Honda fix. They put in all those resources, all that development, and the component they need to fix their bike. It's some Spanish dude named Marc Marquez.
Yeah, that was the tweet from Simon Patterson that stuck out. It was like, yeah, the best solution Honda could possibly have is a healthy Marc Marquez. And the one that got me was after the race where he openly said, I'm not in pain. Yeah. And that might be the first time in 3 years he's done a MotoGP race and completed a race distance.
Say longer. Remember all the shoulder issues he had throughout 18 and 19.
Remember when he won the 2019 title and Scott Redding dislocated his shoulder?
By tapping on it.
Unideal. But this is a man who has been battling medium to catastrophic level injury since 2018. The man has had maybe one healthy off season in the past half decade. For the first time in at least 3 years, he finished a MotoGP race and said, I'm not in pain. And you could see Honda gave him a standing ovation when he got back to that garage in 4th place. That was incredible.
I think Alberto's just like, oh, thank God I'm not getting fired.
Which, interestingly enough, Mark now has 73 points, having done, how many races has he done?
Not
He's done a lot less than Paul Espargaro, who is stuck at 47.
This year, he has done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's call it 7 because he really didn't do Aragon. He did a couple corners. So, and he is by a mile and a stretch the highest Honda in the championship. When he's finished, he actually hasn't had a finish lower than 10th this year, and that was with the arm getting progressively worse.
Yeah, that was
before the surgery. Yeah,
that was Mugello. That was the last race before the surgery, and that's when the pain was at its worst. That was the I can't take this anymore level of pain.
And that's really it. Is that with this the way his arm is now, structurally his arm is good. Bone wise, it's good. He can make, in his own words, he can make shapes now on the bike again. And boy, was he! I think he hit a 55 degrees of lean angle on his qualifying lap a couple times in the pouring rain.
56 degrees of lean. That's a lot.
That's a lot of lean. And now it's really just his arm was tired after it because you can visibly see how much muscle he's lost on that side of his body.
My dude's looking like Popeye the Sailor at this point.
Yeah, but before the other arm, gets the spinach buff. And he's only gonna get better from here.
I've watched this man since he was 16 years old, and the time he nearly won that. He nearly didn't make that Moto 3 race at Estoril in 2010. And I've watched this man now for nearly 15 years in his biking career, and he still finds new ways to mystify. This 4th on one good arm in the first full race distance he's ran in the better part of 4 months. 4th. 7 seconds off a dominant Jack Miller for the win. Riding shoulder to shoulder with Miguel Oliveira was on his day is as good as anybody. In the ballpark of Jorge Martin and Brad Binder.
Put a beastly overtake on Oliveira to boot.
Do not ignore the context that this is Mobility Resort Motegi. Those bikes are built right up the road.
Oh, yeah.
I think this bike is going to go under the museum, not in it.
His name is Bennett, and he ain't in it.
But that's just it. I mean, it's only going to get better from here for him physically wise.
Mm.
The ball is in Honda's court at this point.
If I'm Marc Marquez, right, and I would go to the next round of contract negotiations, just play the highlights of this race and be like, turn it off and say, as you can see, give me double what I'm getting now. Give me 200 mil over 4 years.
Yeah, because there's
going to be sprints anyway.
I mean, you look at the results of everyone else. I mean, Nagashima was a wild card for this event on that gorgeous HRC color bike, crashed. He is going to get another shot next race because Taka Nakagami's having his pinky finger on the injured hand rebuilt. Yikes.
Whichever doctor signed him off on riding a MotoGP bike with two torn tendons in his finger is an idiot. Don't do this.
We've been new regarding Dorna. As long as you can, as long as you're alive, you're fit to race at this point.
Idiots.
I digress with that. Mark ended up 10 seconds clear of the next Honda, in this case, Paul Espargaro, in 12th.
It's embarrassing. He's molly-whopping the field right now.
He is Greg Jennings on a broken leg, putting the team on his back, dude.
Oh, yeah. And I wouldn't rule out him winning a race if it rains or if it's Phillip Island.
If he wins a race on this bike, it's worth him more than all of his championships put together.
That's the greatest thing he's ever pulled off.
Which, by the way, there is a list.
There's a long list.
There is a scroll.
It's like Hill in the Arrows Yamaha. It's like, yeah, the fact that you put this on the podium is probably a better example of your talent than your championship.
Yeah, yeah, in shocking news, we on this podcast think Marc Marquez is ridiculous. I know, you're all shocked. You're absolutely stunned.
Typical Marc Marquez media bias.
Why are you talking about Valentino Rossi instead, etc., etc.? More on that later. This was really, like I said, Honda gave him a standing O when he got back to the garage, and hugs and fist bumps all round because they knew that was special. That was an incredible performance. Marquez might be back, and that is a positive and a negative for everybody involved.
Damn
good
right.
Luck.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Like, I got out of bed Saturday morning because I couldn't stay up and watch this while handling my other responsibilities. But the first thing I thought, I was like, yeah, he's still that dude. Dre Harrison, my good friend. Does anybody want to win the MotoGP World Championship?
No. It's a circus. Jack Miller's back in the race.
Unironically, if he keeps doing that.
So Fabio Quartararo finished 8th. That's good, but that's not what you really need to take home a world championship down the stretch. Francesco Bagnaia spent most of his time behind Quartararo, tried to lunge on the final lap, and then he tucked the front. He missed Fabio's bike by centimeters. Meanwhile, Aleix Espargaro had to change bikes in the warm-up lap after Aprilia forgot to remove the fuel map setting from his ECU. His second bike was on a soft front tire, soft rear tire. As a result, he finished 16th, one place out of the points, with Enea Bastianini in 10th. Out of all this, Fabio Quartararo has extended his championship lead to 18 points over Bagnaia. Aleix Espargaro is now 25 points back. No, seriously, Dre, does anyone want to win the 2022 MotoGP World Championship?
They're going to find a way to get Marquez back in. Right? He's cashing
Surely
in.
Not.
He's cashing in his Money in the Bank briefcase.
An octuple points finale in Valencia.
200 points on the line. We'll have to wait and see how this one goes down, brother. The top three, the top four in the championship scored a combined 13 points out of a possible, do the math here, Dre, 74. So This was rough. I mean, none of the titles. I mean, the wet qualifying session did not help. It jumbled up the field. Aleix Espargaro was the best of the title contenders in qualifying. I think he was going to start 4th on the day. But then what happened was an engineer had accidentally left his bike's electronics in fuel save, get me home mode when they left Aleix on his own on the grid. Aleix recognized this and obviously had to go into the pits on his warm-up lap to change bikes, and that means starting from pit lane, basically. And in MotoGP circles, if you don't know, if you start from pit lane, they do not let you go until the last bike is entering the first corner. It's a long wait.
Yeah, there's a reason why it was a big deal that Pedro Acosta won from pit lane.
Almost certainly. So, yeah, this was a nasty deficit. And, of course, his second bike wasn't really set up for race conditions. He had no intention of originally running a soft rear tyre, which didn't really work in race pace. And, of course, combined with the fact that it's really hard to overtake on these bikes, Aleix spent most of his race stuck behind Fabio Di Gianantonio. Good luck passing a Ducati around here, basically. That was rough. Bagnaia was in the midfield pretty much all race. He had his own fight. He had a third fight with Bastianini. Again, only this time it was for 9th rather than for the win.
Yeah, those two were taking full advantage, being on Japanese ground of if gap car, or in this case, if gap bike.
Oh, yeah.
There was a couple yield or crash moves in there between those two that could have very easily ended both of their titles.
Yeah, but Bagnaia gave him the reverse sweep at Victory Corner. I'm just like, good lord. Aggressive, to say the least. And it became a theme because Bagnaia threw the Hail Mary on the final lap, going into turn 2, tried to lunge Fabio at the apex. And Cam, you know the phrase.
Death, taxes, Penske, blood, sweat, tears, Ducati tucks the front.
There it is. My favorite part of this was, as RJ just did, Francesco Bagnaia sarcastically clapping to himself for the mistake that he had just made. Extremely Italian, for what it's worth.
People thought that he was like clapping sarcastically at Quartararo because he cut him off, and no, he was just like, yeah, I'm clapping sarcastically at myself because I'm a bit of an idiot with bad judgment, but we already know
that is
this.
5. That is 4 self-inflicted DNFs on the season, 5 in total, because remember, one of them was him being headbutted by Taka Nakagami.
Mm-hmm.
That a championship that does not make.
Yeah, this was the 11th time in the last 12 races that Francesco Bagnaia has either won or crashed. The other one was a second. Bagnaia is becoming the win it or bin it rider. There is no other word for it. And yeah, this was another wild and unnecessary mistake for Bagnaia. The only blessing for him is that he only lost 8 points. It could have been a lot worse.
It could have been a lot worse. He could have been Aleix Espargaro.
Yeah, like he wasn't even the worst contender on the day. Yeah, this was a big blown opportunity for Aleix Espargaro. He was absolutely distraught when he was back in the garage after the race.
He was the best of the title contenders by a mile in qualifying.
Yeah, had the pace.
He had the speed to at least challenge for the win. I don't know if he would have had the raw pace to beat Miller, but easily second.
Oh, yeah.
And instead, he's effectively a race back.
Yeah,
he's 25 back.
He's 25 back, and he's got some work to do to catch Fabio on count back. And
that's the problem for Aleix now, is that like throughout the year, it's never been big point swings between those two. It's always a few points here, a few points. It's not the end of the world for Ben. If he was gonna bin the bike, might as well bin it here. But again, with Pecco, he doesn't take points. He just doesn't do it.
We are now getting to the point with Aleix where it's borderline must-win territory. And I'm not sure he's got that in him.
No, the Aprilia is very occasionally a win bike, More often than it's a top 5 bike, and he's going to need to take bigger chunks out of Fabio. Bagnaia can keep winning, and he can bridge that gap.
He can. We've seen him do it.
But that's the problem with Pecco. He could do it, or he could tuck the front.
There is something that you apparently said while watching the race that I was not privy to, and we've had a discussion about this. That Cam, you insist that you said this line about a different
I had thought that I did because, man, there is no greater image of Suzuki's final stages of MotoGP than one bike bursting into flames while the other pits to retire with a puncture.
The quote is, quote, Aprilia is a farmer whose crop is indifferent. So you could swap out Aprilia from Suzuki.
It's so funny.
And maybe it applies more. I mean, I'll take
shout out to Mr. Regular for that. Man, Aprilia, in their own words, Aprilia fucked up.
Yeah, their own people said we fucked up.
That they had a golden opportunity to bridge the gap to Fabio, and instead they more or less gave him another out because Fabio has not even been close to looking like a winner lately.
Mm-hmm.
But no one else wants to win either. So that big result in Austria where they were supposed to be terrible, no good, and very bad is pretty much protecting him from Bagnaia and Espargaro.
Yeah, Fabio was nowhere all weekend and left 8 points more in his championship gap than he had when he got here. That's a huge dub for Fabio, and it's one less round for the field to chase him down if he really is struggling for pace this badly. And you know what? He's got Buriram next, and he was good around here the last time they raced around. He lost to Marc Marquez by a nose. So not sure how well the Yamaha will stack up 3 years on from that. But if the evidence is there, Fabio should be a bit better around here on paper. Then again, what has any of this MotoGP season been decided on paper this year? God knows at this point. I mean, this was a sloppy weekend for everybody who matters in this championship fight. Bagnaia over-egged the pudding again. Bastianini was caught in the midfield again. Aleix Espargaro fucked up again, although this one wasn't his fault. And
they just put the bike in a fuel save mode, as it was once known upon a time, just regular Aprilia performance mode.
You can only polish a turd so much.
Indeed.
Something.
If Joe Roberts had that crystal ball, I think he probably takes that deal, but we'll never know. We're going to Buriram in Thailand next. That was kind of a track that when you look at it, it looks kind of flat, Mickey Mouse, and uninspired, but it's turned out to produce nothing but bangers. And on that note, MotoGP over the weekend announced that they are racing at a brand new track in Kazakhstan on a multi-year deal. And for the sake of this segment, I've instituted that we are levying a $5 U.S. fine for any recognizable catchphrases from the film Borat or its sequel in this segment. Because as we know, Kazakhstan is more than just one Sacha Baron Cohen film.
Correct. I mean, we had to edit this in last minute because we didn't get any wind of this news. This wasn't even rumored in the pipeline.
It's come out of nowhere like a Randy Orton RKO. It's like a Diamond Dallas Page diamond cutter.
Yeah, it's like the one we knew about was India. India is going to be on the MotoGP calendar probably in a couple of years' time, most likely 2024. But not yet. But
me suddenly realizing that Vettel's tire marks from 2013 will in fact go away.
Sigh.
So this is the Sokol International Racetrack. It is located outside of the city of Almaty. It'll be a new region for MotoGP as the sport continues to expand around the world, engaging with new markets and fan bases. It debuts next year. It kind of looks a little bit like Estoril at home when you just look at the layout of the course. Kazakhstan, not the best place to live in. I'm sure the people are cool. It's the assholes in power that are the problem here. That's always been the Motorsport 101 motto. Kind of a surprise that this dropped.
I spoke, and I want to give a shout out to Lida Oaks over at Decal Spotters, who I pressed about this, because she knows like motorsport sponsorship and details like that as well as anyone in the world. She's awesome. So Lila, I know you're listening. Hi. Keep up the great work. Keep your chin up. And yeah, just in general, I just asked her a couple of days ago, like, was there any inkling about Kazakhstan and having a biking sort of background at all? And she was just straight up like, nope. They backed Jorge Lorenzo as a sponsor one time back in 2009, and that was basically it. So look, I'm going to cut to the chase here. I can't believe 3 weeks ago I was talking about how this sport was morally bankrupt after announcing it had an intention to race in Saudi Arabia, and now we're racing in fucking Kazakhstan next year. Jesus Christ! Like, this sport continues to prove me right time and time again at an alarming rate of accuracy. I mean, I can't care about this race. Like, I sit there and I go, how can I have any emotional investment in a race in Kazakhstan whatsoever? Why? Like, why should I give a shit? Besides, oh, it's a new region. Like, dude, like, you're gonna race in India. Racing in India is genuinely huge. That could be a huge win for MotoGP.
As a side note, Sebastian Vettel's just been announced as a Ducati wildcard for that race.
Hey, who knew? I mean, look,
he's going to win by 33 seconds.
I don't think it's that track. I don't think it's that track.
I think it is. I think it's going to be.
It is.
It's going to be the Buddha International Circuit. Yeah, it's going to be exactly where they raced F1 round.
Oh, hell yeah. Underrated. It doesn't produce good racing, but like...
It didn't produce good racing because Vettel was 15 seconds up the road every year.
Pretty much. Look, I was going to say, like... India is a huge win for the series, given how many people travel in that country via bike. It's going to be a huge dub for MotoGP to get a race in India. But the problem I now have is that, on top of just the fact that from a human rights standpoint, we should not be racing in Kazakhstan. They do not deserve to have a Grand Prix at all, as far as I'm concerned. But the fact that we have now had confirmation in the last month that we are going to be we're adding 3 more rounds to this calendar. Kazakhstan, India, and Saudi Arabia eventually are going to be on this calendar. I know from what Simon Patterson has said on Twitter from the Hyphen, this race in Kazakhstan is replacing Finland. So Finland apparently is not coming back.
Yeah, that is completely gone at this point because those building that track and those organizers, should pay their bills.
Circuit of Wales moment.
Circuit of Wales moment. Rest in piss. You hardly knew you, bozo. Etc. Point is, this Kazakhstan race is apparently replacing Finland. But even so, like, are we going to start chopping rounds for India and Saudi Arabia? Like, are we going to get to 22 or 23 MotoGP races in a season? With the sprints, taking us up to 46. How much is too much here, gentlemen? Because this is getting out of hand.
Well, it's never enough because as long as they're writing those checks and they ain't bouncing, it's just gonna. We're in the same place as we are with the F1 calendar, where it's just like, what's the human cost here?
I mean, annoyingly, we don't really know until we see it with our own eyes, but it doesn't fill me with confidence that, like, I'm not saying that Grand Prix calendars should contract. That I know realistically that's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's never, ever going to happen.
But
unless we start declaring some more wars.
I mean, how
far?
Don't
recommend this.
How far are we going to push this? I mean, Formula One's going to 20. We got confirmation Formula One's going to 24 next year with 6 sprints, and now MotoGP is going to 21 next year with sprints on every race. And now there's probably going to be at least 2 more rounds added in the next, probably 2 or 3 years. So, oh my god. I thought we were pushing it in MotoGP with 20, and now we're probably going to be at 22, 23. This is nuts. Like, this is crazy. Like,
They get half races added to every weekend.
Like I said, if you're Marc Marquez, you ask for double that salary because you're going to be busier.
You double the work over eventually.
That's the way I see it. And like, as far as like, way down the priority order, I don't know what Kazakhstan's going to race like, but I will say that people had a lot of these same concerns when the Azerbaijan Grand Prix was added to the calendar, and then they had a good race in its second year, and everybody's just like, well, forgot all about.
Mm-hmm. Azerbaijan still in open conflict as we speak with Armenia. Yay. Still on the calendar, baby. Still on the calendar. But yeah, that's the state of the sport right now, and I worry. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I worry about a lot of that shit on that one. So yeah, we managed to get through the entire bonus segment without mentioning any of those catchphrases. Well done, everybody. Give yourselves a pat on the back. As mentioned, MotoGP is back for the third and final part of its triple header this weekend with the Thailand Grand Prix at Buriram. First time we've been there since 2019. We love to see it. Good to see it back on the calendar. It's certainly been missed. Looking forward to that one. Yeah, 3 out of the 5 flyaway rounds. We are almost halfway through the gauntlet run there. And then finally we get a break. Also, episode 401 will be out next week because Formula One is back this weekend at Singapore. Another race we've not had in 3 years.
Wait. Hold on, Dre. What happened to episode 400?
About that. See, here's the thing. Since I have taken over editing duties of Motorsport 101, I have noticed that we have an archive that we haven't tapped into very often. I call this one of the lost episodes that you have not heard before until now. Last year, back in December of 2021,
maybe we should leave it as a surprise.
Should we?
I think we should surprise our wonderful listeners.
Yeah. You know what? I'll end it there. You'll have to listen to episode 400 for yourself to find out. I may have left a hint in this episode somewhere.
Yeah, if you're paying attention, you probably got a hint of it.
You can figure that out for yourselves. You know what? I'll even let the Patreon backers know first what's coming. How about that? So
now there's a financial incentive.
Yeah, so if you want to back us on Patreon, you can do that, and you can find out first what episode 400 is going to be. So, stick around. Like I said, I did drop a hint in this episode somewhere as to what that is. If you've been paying attention, you'll know what I'm talking about. But yeah, episode 400 from the archives. I'll give you a hint. It is something that we recorded last year, but never saw the light of day until now. That's all I'm telling you. Episode 401, Formula One in Singapore, will be around next week. Championship point for Max Verstappen. Needs a lot of help to get there, but there is an outside chance he can win it in Singapore this
Max needs
weekend.
A lot of help. Well, I mean, it's a good thing his opponent is Ferrari.
It helps. I'm not going to lie. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. But yeah, outside chance of a Verstappen title, but it's most likely going to be Suzuka. But, there's an outside chance. We'll have to wait and see how that goes. We could be coronating a 2-time Formula One world champion this time next week. Places you can find us one more time: youtube.com, facebook.com/motorsport101, Twitter /motorsport_101. Our personal handles at Harrison101HD, at RJ O'Connell, and at cbuckley917. Our website, motorsport101.com. And of course, as mentioned, if you really like us, you can back us financially on Patreon. Patreon.com/motorsport101. And yeah, you will get the very special 400th episode of Motorsport 101 before anybody else if you back us. And I'll say right now, at any level. So I will put it out there for even. So in other words, you will get episode 400 early for just $1. All you got to do is be a backer on Patreon. There you go. I can't be any more generous than that. Episode 400 coming soon. Until then, I've been Dre Harrison, they've been RJ O'Connell and Cameron Buckley. Until next time, sayonara.
Later, y'all.
Insert awful Borat quote here.
You know, I'm sure that everybody's going to love hearing this, especially my wife.